So, welcome back to the humble roundup of 2020, where we're looking back at the 12 months of humble choice. I'm joined by Austin from Bombchu, and we're going to look at the second half of 2020, look at the games we liked or the games we disliked, and what we returned to.
All right. So in July 2020, we got Age of Wonders Planetfall, Void Bastards, Railway Empire, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, Yuppie Psycho, Beat Hazard 2, Sigma Theory, Global Cold War, Metal Unit, Don't Escape, 4 Days to Survive, Verlet Swing, Welcome to Basingstoke. I hope I pronounced that right.
It's
Uh,
Basingstoke.
Basingstoke. I was
We're
going to say
so close.
Basingstoke, and I was like, something is telling me that's wrong. But Earthlock for DRM free, we got Grotto and a sneak peek at Pop Up Dungeon, as well as the mystery Steam key for that month was Vikings, Wolves of Midgard.
It sounds sort of better when you speak it like that. If not, it's like a bit disappointing. So yeah, this month I returned to Void Bastards and finished Verlet Swing.
Mhm.
Played a little bit of Don't Escape 4. Played a little bit more of Earthlock, I think. Played a little bit more of Sigma Theory. And played a little bit more of Metal Unit. But the only thing I finished was Void Bastards and Verlet Swing. What about you?
So Yuppie Psycho,
Hmm.
I really enjoyed what I played, and it's that's one that's on my short list category on Steam to keep playing more of.
Yep.
Um, really enjoyed the music there. It's got a good horror atmosphere, but also has like lots of things that caught me off guard that made me laugh,
Hmm.
while also being kind of disturbing. Like
Yep.
it's cool. I like that mixture, and it's very well done for something styled like an RPG Maker type of game.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Beat Hazard 2 I enjoyed, but any song that I played, I know there were other people tried to play them as well, and it would always be like it would create a new leaderboard for them as if nobody else was playing it. I was using the where it would scan like
Oh
and
yeah.
find what you were listening to, and I was pulling off
Yeah.
of like a YouTube video. I had somebody else use the exact same YouTube video, and it made a new leaderboard for them as well, and it was just like, okay, well
Mm.
that's kind of disappointing. But Metal Unit, I came back to, um,
Yep.
and I had some fun there. That had some really good pixel art, and it it when I came back to it, it wasn't finished yet. I think they've done. I think it's out of early access now, but I have to go check. I was kind of waiting for whenever that happened.
Yeah,
Um,
I was in a similar position with Metal Unit. I really liked what I played,
mhm.
and I think I spoke to you sort of on the Discord and just saying it was such a good game, but I think I'll wait a few months until it's on
Yeah,
version 1.0 just
yeah,
to really enjoy it to the max.
for sure. Verlet Swing, I got either to the last level or like the second to last level, and it got super hard. But I really loved playing through that game. Like that also kind of blew up the Bombchu Discord where people were speed running against each other, and um, we got a new emote just because of that game. But the whole
Oh
like
yeah, the vibe.
vaporwave style to the at least the opening areas and the way the grappling hook works just is super satisfying to
Oh
use.
yeah. Yeah, I
That game
really
just
like
came out
that
of
one.
nowhere. Yeah,
I think that the swinging mechanics worked really well in it, and it
yeah,
just reminded me of Spider-Man, the PS4 game, which worked nicely because Morales was announced sort of a few weeks after. But yeah, Verlet Swing was definitely one of my favourites. I would say it was my favourite, but Void Bastards. Did you return to that one?
yeah. I did not like Void Bastards. I tried
No.
to get into it, and I understand why people like it, but in general, I'm not much of a roguelike guy. But
Hmm.
on top of it, that one seemed to be built around um, leaving you with not enough supplies and having to kind of figure out what you really want to go for. And
Yeah.
when I see enemies, I want to kill enemies, and so it seemed to be like you really weren't supposed to fight stuff unless you had to.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the way the game the ideas the game was built around, I couldn't really mesh with, but I could
Yeah.
understand what people liked about it.
Yeah, that was again, I don't usually like roguelikes, but that definitely changed my perspective sort of on the genre. I really loved this game. I think the art style was incredible. You've got to love the art at least.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's a great looking game.
Yeah. And I think you're correct in that maybe I didn't grasp it until a few hours in, but you don't have to kill everything. You can just go in, grab some fuel, sneak back out. And I think the stealth sections in this were done really well with all like sort of the London gangster accents.
Hmm.
That was all good. Um, it's an interesting game. I don't know how it passed, especially on the eShop for the name of the game. Um, but yeah, it was really good. It definitely made me enjoy roguelikes a lot more. Um, when I died, I didn't feel too angry because you were sort of straight back into the action. It had that sort of FTL, faster than light sort of map menu.
Yeah.
It's that type of menu used before FTL? Because I always referred to it as the map from FTL, but is it earlier than that?
So I'm trying to remember. Is there like something chasing you, or are you just kind of trying to progress through the map?
So you try and get through to the. So yeah, at the beginning you're getting just to the end to get to like, the special piece you need, but
Hmm.
then there's space pirates.
That are chasing behind.
Yeah, that you have to like
Okay.
avoid their path.
Okay. Yeah. So I if there was a game that used it before that, I'm not sure, but I know FTL was kind of the first big popular one that everyone knows that mechanic for.
Mm,
So as far as I can tell, generally that type of map is referred to as like the FTL map. So
yeah,
even if
okay.
something else did it before, like that's where people know it from.
Yeah, so it really sort of came to power.
Yeah.
Anything else this month that you returned to in sort of some length?
Let's see. Grotto I played and I didn't really get um,
Yep.
at
Yeah, I didn't
all.
get
It was yeah. I couldn't tell if it was just like, well, that's the game, or if I was just missing something. But
No, I was in a similar position, so I think it was just the abstractness of the game, which sometimes works and sometimes it just doesn't hit, does it?
yeah.
Um, Pop Up Dungeon. I didn't play that, but from what I've seen of the game, it looks really interesting. But I never want to buy a sneak peek or to play a sneak peek, and I don't review them in my bundles. I don't think I spoke about this before, just because for me it always feels like advertising,
Hmm.
and maybe it does give a good perspective into the game, but it's done to make you buy the game. And once you sort of spend the half an hour playing the game, and then the 15 minutes or 10 minutes or so it takes to review, I don't know what value it adds to the bundle and what value my thoughts on the demo add to the review as such. So I've never really played the sneak peeks and I don't mention them. Um, but yeah, that's a Squash Pickle exclusive on the first Squash Pickle podcast. uh, yeah, what did you think of Pop Up Dungeon?
I think Chris played that one, and I never bothered to try the sneak peek after he had played it.
Okay,
I can't remember
yeah.
what he thought about it.
I think I remember it being positive. You'll have to look back. I'll link all the playlists again in the description. So comments you can tell us now at a few weeks after we've recorded this. Um, Earthlock, have you played that one before? If it sounds like a game that many
I
people have played in the
I
past.
didn't play it before the bundle, but I did try it for the bundle, and
Yeah.
it was enjoyable. I'm not much of it's been a bit. That was a turn based RPG, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not like super into turn based RPGs. I it wasn't offensive to me or anything like that. It
Mhm.
was just like in a sea of other RPGs that I'm working on right now. I just didn't really see it fitting into to something that I would take time to work on. Like I'm trying to work on Dragon Quest 11 right now, as well as Final Fantasy 15. I've got I've got both the Nino Kuni games on my to do list. Like I've got a big list of big RPGs I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, those sort of RPGs, they don't really work with me. I'm glad to hear that you enjoy them. Yeah, and all the other games this month, I definitely played. I've definitely returned to a lot of them, but none of them, apart from Void Bastards and Verlet Swing, really connected with me. A Metal Unit, which I was going to play when it fully released.
Mhm.
I sort of just maybe played them for 20 minutes or so each, and just decided that they weren't for me. Beat
Yeah,
Hazard 2 was good, but it definitely felt like a novelty and not a long term game.
yeah.
It was a good novelty to play, but not one that I would continue playing. Do you have any other thoughts on this month? I don't know whether you have anything to say about Vikings, but I didn't play that
No,
one at all.
I know I played it at some point, and yeah, I don't remember anything about it, which tells you how
Tells you
memorable
enough.
it was.
Um, so yeah, if we move on to August, so we had Vam. Now, how do you say VAMPYR? That just sounds like it's being too complicated for its own good.
So I would pronounce that vampire, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so Vampire. We had the two Hello Neighbors. So this was the first time we had sort of two games taking up one choice. Wargroove, Call of Cthulhu, Little Big Workshop, Genesis Alpha 1 Deluxe, Autonomous Chef, Through the Darkest of Times, American Fugitive, the Coma 2 Vicious Sisters, We Were Here Together, A Case of Distrust, Booth as the Humble Original, and we also had Zodiac XX as Humble Original, in addition to a sneak peek of Wildfire. So, why don't you start this time and what you return to?
All right. This was a little bit of a rough month for me.
Okay.
I did play some more Little Big Workshop. That was a pretty chill game. Some of the orders I started to fail, but that wasn't like the end of life for you or anything like that.
Mhm.
So it was starting to get more complicated, but not for being a game that is in a genre I don't usually play. It was pretty fun.
Oh, cool.
Um, Man, I really wanted to come back to Genesis Alpha One if it had been uh, any fun. I had so many bugs and problems and like design issues with that game that it, on paper it should be pretty good, but I know other people liked it. I couldn't bring myself back to it. Automa Chef was kind of fit in well with like the Zachtronics type of games where it's like building a an automated solution to as efficiently as possible. It got kind of hard pretty quick to get as efficient as they wanted you to, and there were just enough little quirks about moving things from one device to another that kept ticking me off that I ended up quitting that.
Yeah.
I did finish We Were Here Together with my wife, and
Okay.
that uh, that's a trilogy of games. That's the third in the trilogy. You don't really have to play the other ones, but it, in terms of difficulty, this one was gets pretty hard towards the end. We finished it. We got all the achievements and everything, and we took at some point you split off from each other and take two different paths, but and we completed both paths. But
Okay.
man, we hit we hit a point that got pretty difficult. But it was definitely still fun and really good co-op game.
Yeah. Was that it for this month then? For games that you've sort of come back to?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to try Wargroove yet, so that's one that I want to try, but I haven't gotten to play it just yet.
Yeah. So for me, I returned to Vampire. Realized that's too dark for me. Um, didn't want to spend many more hours on it. Hello Neighbor, I did not return to in the slightest.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
didn't like
understand
that.
that.
I couldn't understand the appeal.
It's I honestly I have no idea. It's all the reviews I've read of it. But there's like some reviews that are really positive. I just don't understand it. Wargroove, I did return to that. I liked that. But like quite a lot of strategy games, I didn't feel too excited to return, so I didn't return. Um Call of Cthulhu, I enjoyed that when I originally played it. I played about another 20 minutes, didn't like it. Well, maybe didn't like it, but didn't want to spend more time with it. Um, Automa Chef, I played a few more of that. I owned it on the Switch and I realized it was much better to play it on PC. Like the Switch. I don't know why I decided to pick it up on that console originally. Through the Darkest of Times, and I finished that. Um, that was really good. I liked it. It was definitely you had to be in the right headspace to play it. It wasn't like a game you'd return to after a long day at work or school.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it got this message across really well. Maybe wasn't the most revolutionary in actual gameplay mechanics, but I don't think that's what it's going for. But yeah, the art style worked. It had its distinct. How would you describe the art style? Because cartoonish almost sounds degrading to it.
I actually didn't play that one yet.
Can you see like the little cover image on the
Yeah,
screenshot?
yeah, they definitely are. It's like it's a cartoon art style, I would say.
Yeah,
It's very dark for a cartoon art style,
mm,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely a cartoon.
And then aside from that, we were here together. Um, I returned to. I played a bit of that with a friend. Haven't finished that yet. Life just got in the way. A Case of Distrust. I tried to play a bit more of. Actually, realized that it just. I really loved it in the beginning. I don't know what it was about it, but I didn't return to that one. Um, Zodiac XX. I didn't return to. Booth. I didn't return to. You played Booth, didn't you? Because Chris covered Zodiac XX
Chris
in.
actually covered both that time
Oh,
because
did he?
I
Sorry.
did the wildfire sneak
Oh,
peek.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chris's thoughts on Zodiac XX were very funny. Yeah, Wildfire's a humble published game, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see that in a humble choice pretty soon.
Would you be happy if that was in a humble choice?
I'd be fine with it, assuming they fix some of the bugs. I ran into some interesting bugs while I was playing through the sneak peek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, anything else you want to say about August?
Um. Yeah. Hello Neighbor was really weird. I understand. I don't have a complaint about them including it, but I could not understand the appeal of either of those games.
Yeah, just they. I don't know what it was about them. I think
Yeah.
it's just. Ugh.
All right. Well, that brings us to September of 2020, which had Golf with Your Friends, Generation Zero, Forager, Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York, Fun with Ragdolls, the game, Lethal League Blaze, Strange Brigade, Evoland Legendary Edition, Ukulele and the Impossible Lair, Catherine Classic, The Occupation, The Shapeshifting Detective, and in terms of the extras, we got Alt 254, Carto, a sneak peek, and yeah, that's what we had for the bundle.
Okay, do you want to lead in what you enjoyed again then?
Ooh, sure.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
Golf,
turn two.
yeah, yeah. Golf with Your Friends is a game I have put a lot of hours into. Let me double check that on Steam. Um, Yeah, I've got about 71 hours on Golf with Your Friends. That seems low
Okay.
compared to what I expected, but I've very much enjoyed that game, especially with the workshop support. And if you're playing it, turn on Ball Collision for sure. Play it with
Yeah.
friends. Don't play it by yourself. It's not a very interesting game alone. But yeah, we'll get some friends on for a couple of hours on the weekend and just really piss each other off or do trick shots, and uh, that's a blast to go through. Forager is a game I played start to finish over the course of like 24 or 48 hours, and with some very small breaks in between. They've added a lot of stuff since I last played, and I've been waiting to do a full playthrough again when they add co-op, which sounds
Yep.
like it's going to be pretty soon. So, but that's a great game to play through. Um, Lethal League Blaze was a lot of fun. I played a decent amount of the original Lethal League, and after watching some of the pros play in Blaze as well as some of the Bombchu members, it was very clear to me that they were at a skill level that I would never ever reach. But
Yep.
it's a fun game nonetheless, especially playing with somebody around your skill level. there's a lot of fun and flashiness to be had there. Um, let's see, Evoland Legendary Edition. So that's Evoland 1 and 2. I've finished Evoland 1 in the past. It's not it's not an offensive game to finish. It's not like a really great game to go through, but it's pretty short. And if you played games in the era that is traveling through, it's a fun little look back, and they have some little laughs that you can enjoy. Evoland 2, I never finished, but I got probably more than halfway through.
Okay.
And that's a game that kind of similar to Horus, it just keeps shifting in what it is. So, like, every new area you go to, there's a different mechanic to where, like, some areas you're doing kind of like a Bomberman style game, some areas you're doing like a
Yeah.
Zelda type game, some places you're doing stealth. Like, it's interesting. It just keeps shifting in what it is. So it's one that I'll probably go back and finish someday.
Mm.
Ukulele and the Impossible Lair. I already owned it on Switch, so it was cool to get it on PC, just to have all my stuff in one place. But yeah, that's a really fun Donkey Kong style game that's pretty enjoyable to play, and the way that the map the way that you can interact with the overworld is almost its own level, uh,
Mm.
to where you can use that to change existing levels and go back and find different stuff in those is pretty cool. Uh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing of ukulele. I didn't actually return to it. Well, I returned to it for a few levels, but again, there's just so many games coming out, especially towards the end of 2020, that
Yeah.
you really had to prioritize what you played with, which is in a good position to be in. But yeah, I just didn't have enough time to do the impossible there. What were you saying about the extras? Sorry.
Oh no. So Catherine, I have not gotten to go and play yet, but that's been on my to do list since like 2013 or something like
Okay.
that. I kept being like, I'm gonna buy that for 360 or something like that, and they finally put out Catherine Classic. So it's still one that I've always wanted to go back and play, just because I've heard the story is really amazing, and so I have not played it yet, but that was definitely a highlight for the bundle for me of checking off something on my wish list. And Carto, I played the sneak peek of, and that was really enjoyable. It's you're building a map out as you go, and there, you get a lot of free form to how you want to do it, but it's got some really interesting puzzles, and it was pretty original. I would look for, if that came in a bundle sometime later. I would enjoy that.
Okay. Yeah. Alt 254 was the one that I played as the extra. Didn't really click with that one. The minimalist style didn't work, so I didn't
Yeah.
return to that. I did, however, I returned to quite a lot of these, but there's not any that made a lasting impression. So Golf with Your Friends, I played some more of with the people at Bombchu Discord. Um, Forager, I played a little bit of. It does what it does really well. I just wanted, I didn't want another game like Planet Coaster that I would spend, hours and hours on without maybe experiencing a story, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
do sometimes like a full like narrative in games without sounding too pretentious. Um, Lethal League Blaze, yeah, again, that was loved by the Bombtree Discord. Strange Brigade, I played a few missions of, but still haven't finished that. Evoland, I used to play on like this gaming tablet I had, which is now sold. I just didn't return to that. I don't really know why it does what it does well. I don't know what it was about it. I think I just didn't like the sheep part, and I haven't returned to since that. Do you know you have to like push the sheep round, and if you do it wrong, you have to restart?
Yeah, and while I was streaming the game, like I had played that part before, and while I was doing the stream and recording footage, I redid that part for like 10 minutes, and every time I'd come back and be like, okay, I know what I have to do, and I would mess it up. So I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. It's just it's not a that part isn't terrible. I don't know what it
It's
is.
just
It just really
annoying.
puts
It's
me off
just
the game.
yeah. I'll come back and do this later. I think you never do.
um, Occupation, I finished. That was when that was announced. That was straight on my Steam wish list. I was happy to see it in the bundle. I don't know what it was about the game, but at the end, I didn't like it, and
Okay.
I spoke about it really highly in the original review. So I think that's why it's good to do sort of a podcasting like this.
Mhm.
It's just the story. Just I don't know what it was about the story, but I just didn't. It didn't work. Were you able to play any more, or
I have not started it, so that was one Chris
okay?
covered, and
Yeah.
it does not look like a game I'm going to enjoy.
Mm,
But I need to sink. I know it's a game I need to sink some time into before really
yeah.
making that decision of I don't like this or not. Um,
Yeah.
so
The actual sort of sorry.
sorry,
Um,
no, go ahead.
the actual sort of real time stealth works quite well. Um, but then there were times when there'd be like 10 minutes left, and I didn't have enough time to start a new mission. So I would literally sit my character down and just go on my phone for 10 minutes
Oh my
until I
gosh.
was ready for the meeting. And
Oh
the
jeez.
story just it was definitely, without getting too political, it was definitely to do with some form of take on Brexit, just the way it was released.
Mhm.
Sorry, the time of which it was released. I just don't know what it was about it, and it was all to do with like, without going to spoilers, like conspiracies and that sort of thing. But there was just no connection to the characters, which is really important in a game like that when you have sort of accusations. Yeah, it just didn't work for me in the end. So I wasn't particularly pleased, but I still think the bundle made up with the multiplayer titles in that month.
Yeah, there were some definitely some strong games here, especially multiplayer wise. What'd you think of Fun with Ragdolls?
Oh dear, what did I think of Fun with Fractals? I honestly don't understand that at all.
Yeah,
Like
that was a weird one.
it was, I don't think it was shopkeep bad. It definitely had sort of thought put into it, but
Oh, sure. And like it it worked well. It wasn't like a glitchy game. It's just it there was not a whole lot to do that was fun.
I think I played like a Fall Guys recreation of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with that game, but no, I didn't return to that one at all. Shall we go on to October now?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we had Tropico 6 El Prez edition, Fae Tactics Sunless Bundle, which came with Sunless Seas and Sunless Skies, Iron Danger, Autonauts, Shadows Awakening, Fantasy Blacksmith, The Suicide of Rachel Foster, Goat of Duty, The Uncertain Last Quiet Day, Basement, Light Matter, and the extras we had Fate of Kai and Syzygy. Yeah, so this for this month, this really wasn't a month that I returned to. I don't know about you, Austin, but the only game I played again was Light Matter and an hour of The Suicide of Rachel Foster. Maybe not even an hour.
Okay.
What did you return to?
Let's see. So Autonauts was pretty fun. I played a bit more of that before I realized that I was either going to have to quit there or just like throw away uh, tens of hours of my life.
Hmm.
And so I ended up quitting there, but I have a buddy who really got, I think he actually got to the point where he was having robots programming other robots. And it was, he, 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 he put a lot of time into that game.
Christopher
Um,
Nolan type thing.
yeah, basically. I finished up The Suicide of Rachel Foster, and that was pretty
Okay.
good. Um, I remember it while I was talking about it in the review, I mentioned some parallels with Firewatch, and I would say in Firewatch, a lot of like what seems to be like there's some kind of disappointment and there seems to be danger, and then it's like the big reveal is kind of disappointing, and that was not the case here.
Okay.
It's pretty short. It's like maybe 3 hours long, and it, yeah, it was a pretty interesting narrative, and never really many times where I was kind of struggling to figure out where to go. So the hotel is pretty small, and you start to become pretty familiar with your surroundings. And yeah, I had a good time with that one.
Yeah, Suicide of Rachel Foster. I've read a review of it, and in the beginning of the review, it literally said, "I think this game should be spoiled, so I am going to spoil it."
Oh,
And it's like, I,
wow, that's bizarre.
it was. They sort of did have an argument, but I don't. They basically spoiled the big twist to it straight at the beginning, and this was
Ugh.
like a big review site,
Yeah,
and I don't think they agreed with the way the twist was presented, and they were sort of discouraging people from buying the game. But once I saw that twist in an investigation game, when the investigation is investigated for you at the beginning, you don't really want to return to it.
yeah, that's
Just yeah. But yeah, aside from that, did you play anything else again?
I came back to Light Matter and played some more of that. I didn't finish it, but I thought that was an interesting puzzle mechanic to that they had there. Um, it it's not super easy to come up with brand new puzzle mechanics for games. And so to when you come up with one that's kind of unique, it's always cool to see. I
Yeah,
oddly came back to the uncertain for a little bit. I was like, maybe if I play past that first like that first episode point and make it to the end of that, like maybe I'll hit like a twist that's more interesting. And
yeah.
no, it sucks. um, so the only other one that I came back to was Syzygy,
Yep.
which is another really cool, like very interesting puzzle mechanic game that also had a really cool visual style. It got
Yeah.
too hard for me, but it was a really cool game, and that was one that a few people in the Bombchu Discord were kind of heavily discussing, and they actually made it all the way to the end. And seeing some of the levels that they were playing through, I was just like, I know this is way over my head, but it's cool to see where the game goes.
Yeah, SysG was a funny one in that it's on Steam now for £15.50,
Yeah,
and the only reviews it has are free reviews. Well, two reviews in my language, three reviews in total, and they're from people who've received it for free. So like they've got a free review key for. I £15.50 just out. I haven't played the game sort of. I haven't returned to the game, but just from seeing the screenshots, it looks like that game might be struggling with like sales.
for what it is and how niche it was, even coming in that bundle, like I don't think a lot of people play the Humble Originals, but on top of that, it's a pixel art style game, which turns even more people off. And I don't think it got like any sort of marketing on Steam at all.
Mm,
Uh, so on top of that, launching at the price that it did, it was just a little too expensive to pull in kind of random customers, I think.
yeah,
Maybe if they had given out free Steam keys to Humble subscribers to kind of get a little bit more review hype going, I don't know,
yeah.
that might have helped. But it's a great game. It's unfortunate that it launched at that price, and maybe it's being priced to go on sale at a more appealing price or something
That's
like
a good
that. I'm
idea.
not sure.
I think with the corridor, which we'll talk about sort of in a moment's time, that game I think has done very very well on Steam. It's
Two
priced at
dollars.
yeah yeah well yeah I was going to say in pounds, but yeah
Yeah,
$2. And I follow the developer on Twitter. We've talked a bit about sort of various personal stuff. He's been a really good person to talk to about sort of living in the UK and going into games industry, that sort of thing.
hmm
But yeah, he was saying that it's like it was at the front of like the bestsellers of the Steam page, like just underneath Cyberpunk, and like what it must be that. Well, I haven't spoken to him about sale numbers. This is all sort of my speculation. But thousands of sales at sort of a $2 price is better than five sales at $20.
For
Like,
sure. And he definitely put work into that game. I can tell he put a lot of work into it. And I'm not trying to devalue the work that went into Syzygy, but at the
yeah,
same time, people were hyped to play the corridor before that that it was a humble original, right? Like there was
Yeah,
already some like that trailer went out and people were like, "This is like Stanley Parable." People were excited to play that game already, and it launched at a it's such a low price that it's just even if you're not sure if you're interested in it, that's so low that it's just like, why not? I'll give it a try. Um, and then once you get on the bestsellers page, that's just free advertising to
yeah,
so many more people. So yeah, it's that's a really interesting point that you bring up there.
yeah. Have you seen the Steam page for the corridor?
I looked at it at one point. I didn't like look at it very in depth, so there might have been some fun stuff that I missed.
Yeah, the screenshots is literally just that opening corridor, all from different angles. It's just a very it's a very good similarity. I think we'll talk in slightly more detail about the corridor later, but
Yeah.
just how that compares to sort of how Humble Originals are dealt with after being in the original. But yeah, the only other one I returned to is Light Matter. Um, I liked it. I liked the art style. I liked the puzzles. For some reason, it just didn't do enough to make me come back after about an hour and a half. It's it
Yeah,
had
I
a
get
very
you.
similar style to Void Bastards, that cell shaded, didn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
and that was really good specifically for figuring out where you could and couldn't go. Like the way that the light was the light and the dark had such a huge contrast. It was there was never a time where it was like, where the hell am I supposed to be going? Where's the end of this level supposed to
hmm,
be? I think that
yeah,
was one thing that was really good about it.
yeah. There's nothing. It feels like it's well, maybe not worse. It feels like it's worse than the sum of its parts. In that all the writing's good, the visual style's good, the dialogue's good, the voice acting whatever is good. Oh, I think there's voice acting in it. I forget
Hmm.
now,
Yeah,
but
there is.
overall, it just didn't do enough to make me return. But it's got
Yeah,
overwhelmingly positive recent reviews, so I think it's a good game. It just didn't do enough to bring me back to it.
and I think that's one of the problems with the Steam review system. Overwhelmingly positive reviews doesn't mean that a game is like exceptionally good. It just means a ton of people liked it enough to say that they recommend it, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
and naturally you sort of have a bias because you're buying that game anyway.
yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, One thing I was thinking, did you get round to playing Fate of Kai? Because I know Chris originally reviewed it, and we both spoke very highly of it.
He did, and I have not played it yet. I do have it downloaded, but
Okay.
I have not gotten to play it yet.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I actually completed it, despite how good. Oh no, I did complete it. Yeah, yeah. It's a really good game. Very short, but it's a real good highlight of what a humble original is. Do you have any other thoughts on October? I've realised that we haven't actually spoken about like the big game Tropico 6, but that just didn't do enough to bring me back.
Yeah, Chris thankfully took that one off my hands. I've got a really bad history with Tropico in that when I was little, I begged my family for Black and White on PC. This is a long time ago.
Okay.
This is uh, one of the old Peter Molyneux games back when he was still a big name, um, and and he hadn't done Fable yet.
Okay.
But my family ended up giving my cousin Black and White, and they got me Tropico. And I was like, well, I'll give this a shot. And man, did I not like Tropico. So um, I've given it more of a chance in recent years, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the type of game for me. And on top
Yeah.
of
That's fair enough.
having a rough history with it.
Yeah, Tropico 6. I like City Skylines. I put lot of time into that. Um, but again, as we move towards the end of 2020, there's so many other non-humble games coming out and consoles coming out that we'll talk about in a minute. And things like Cyberpunk and all the new Ubisoft stuff that you just have to really prioritize what you play. And if something's not pulling you towards it, then you don't return, or I don't.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have when you got too much to
Yeah,
play. That's a good spot to be in.
yeah, definitely. So up next is November, which was last month's. Well, I don't know when it's going out, but November 2020. Do you want to read this out, or should I?
Sure, I can do that.
Cool.
November 2020, we had Darksiders 3, Yakuza Kiwami 2, Imperator Rome Deluxe Edition, Crying Suns, Darksburg, Little Misfortune, Smile for Me, Darkwood, Chiok. I had to remember the pronunciation in my head. Rover Mechanic Simulator, Europa, Townsman Kingdom Rebuilt, and Tori as the DRM free game.
Okay, so I'll go through what I've returned to first. You can read our sort of original thoughts on the games in the playlists below. I didn't return to anything. Oh, I returned. I played about an hour of Chiok. I played about an hour more of Little Misfortune and 5 minutes more of Crying Suns. And there was nothing that took my time because November was the month of PlayStation 5. And when you've got like Morales and Watch Dogs Legion and, all manner of different games like that, a gate like things like Crying Suns just didn't seem, and Rover Mechanic Simulator didn't grab my attention. How about you?
Darksiders 3 made it onto my short list of games I want to tackle soon and play more of. I definitely had a good time playing what I did there. Um, it's a very interesting series in that they change genres like every game that they put out, and the Souls like style changes that they made here uh, definitely I think meshed well with the game. So I look forward to playing some more of that. Yakuza Kiwami 2, I love that game. It's I've got about 20 hours in that game and I've barely scratched the surface. There's so much to do. I've been slowly working through the whole Yakuza series. Very excited that 3 through 6 are coming to Steam
Oh yeah,
next year, pretty soon. So I still have a lot more to do in Kiwami 2, but yeah, that's a really good game. If you haven't played the series, I definitely recommend jumping in with Zero. It
yep,
goes on sale for like $3, I think, sometimes. Definitely worth giving a try. Crying Suns, I played some more of, and it's it seems to it has an easier start, which is good, but then it gets tougher, and when it starts to get tougher, you'll have to like replay a story segment, and it got to a point where it
okay,
was just kind of like, okay, it might be a little too tough for me to want to really repeat doing this stuff, but it's got a really interesting idea behind it, and I think
yeah,
for anybody who's into that sort of tactical roguelite type of game, it's definitely a good pickup. I did not come back to Darksburg. I know somebody in our Discord said they played it by themselves and had a really easy time. Uh, Maybe it's scaled for multiplayer to be more difficult, but man, that was a super hard first level
yeah,
for us to do. I want to check out Little Misfortune and Smile for Me. I've heard good things about both of those, and I haven't gotten to try either of them yet. But I definitely want to check those out. Darkwood, I
yeah.
didn't like. It's that's a really obtuse game, and it does what it sets out to do. But man, not not a game for me. I was surprised I didn't like Europa because
Okay,
I know a lot of people have really spoken very highly about that game, and I something about it just rubbed me the wrong way. I couldn't bring myself to come back to it. Um,
yeah. What about Tori, the Humble Original? If you return to that,
I haven't, but I know I really liked my time with it. I think I'm kind of waiting to see if it gets a Steam release and before I play more of it because it seemed like
okay,
something that I could sink some more time into. Maybe it needed a little bit more time in the oven to solidify some of the like, in terms of presentation, it was beautiful to look at. There were a lot of things
yeah,
that was just kind of like I'm feeling like I have to just intuitively figure out some of this stuff, and some of it was not connecting with me, but it was pretty cool overall.
mm. Yeah. For me, I returned to. Well, I said what I've returned to, but Chuck. I stopped playing because at the beginning it was quite linear in its structure, which I quite liked in a point and click, that you didn't have to like go forwards and backwards and backtrack.
Hmm.
Um, but then, of course, you did have to go forward and backwards and backtrack. So that was the end of that. Um, with Little Misfortune, again, nothing bad about the game. I honestly don't know why I left it, but I think I just ran out of time before November 19th. Um, and yeah, Crying Suns, I there's really nothing wrong about that game. There's just nothing to really bring me back to it. Which I think is that's the issue with sort of bundles in general, isn't it? That you're offered so many games that they really, really need to stand out when you have hundreds of games in your backlog.
That's true, but I think the other part of that is, especially if you're trying all of the games,
Yeah.
you get such a good sampling of a lot of stuff that when they throw that many things to see what sticks, it's you end up every 2 or 3 months you'll find something that just you really click with. That's just like,
Mm.
how did I not know about this game? How did I not own this game?
Yeah.
And it's always something I would never have found otherwise. That's just like
Yeah.
that. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, I think I'd encourage. I know I'm not asking all my viewers to suddenly become a reviewer, although it would be cool to have sort of more perspectives. But definitely for me, being able to play games like Smile for Me, games like Darkwood, that I would normally sort of instantly sort of ignore on my Steam page or whatever, but being able to play them, and even if I hate them in the first 10 minutes, at least you've opened up your perspectives a little bit more.
Yeah, you can talk about it with some experience. It speaks a lot more to the game than a set of screenshots or video, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I
Uh,
suppose, sorry,
no, go ahead.
now that the humble choice isn't the humble choice, I don't know what we'd call it, the humble non-choice. If you're paying for 12 games already, what's the point of having four Steam keys? Well, Humble doesn't really want you to give them away anymore. You can maybe just spend like an hour a day, an hour just spending 10 minutes on each game. Do that for 2 days and you're sorted, really. But yeah, I definitely think it's good to open up to different games even more. You're not losing anything. But then I'd also say when you buy a bundle, just see if there's anything that interests you first. If not, you might be
Yeah,
disappointed.
yeah, for sure. Something to pull you in to then maybe find something else that'll catch your interest after the fact.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on November?
Yakuza is amazing. Go play that
Yep.
series, please.
Yeah, well, when you say about Yakuza Zero, because I really liked Yakuza Kiwami 2, and
Mhm.
I've actually, it's made me more open to Yakuza in general. So I've added Yakuza Zero to my wish list now.
Awesome. Okay,
Sort of just as you
that's
said
exciting.
it. So the winter sale's coming up because yeah, like you said, they're really good games. It's the latest one on Game Pass.
I think all of them are on Game Pass.
Okay,
And,
yeah,
and I think when 3 through 6 come out, I think they're coming to Game Pass at the same time as Steam.
okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I definitely need to play sort of the lead up to Yakuza Kiwami 2 because there's a lot of sort of backstories that I skipped because I didn't want to be spoiled, and I
Mhm.
sort of I shut my ears and eyes a bit to the story, and I don't actually remember anything. So I'm ready to go into Yakuza Kiwami, even though I've played a bit of Kiwami 2.
Okay.
But yeah, they're definitely good games. And again, with sort of these bundles, you do open your eyes into games you'd otherwise ignore. So that leads us nicely into the final month. So we're currently reviewing this a few days before Christmas Day. So we must have played, well, literally about 2 weeks ago, the bundle came out. Let's see. So the bundle came out on Friday the 4th. So we're reviewing, but we're looking back about 2 weeks later. So you haven't had too much time to return. But have you
Mhm.
returned to anything? So we had Overcooked 2, Children of Mortar, One Step from Eden, The Beast Inside, Indivisible, Shining Resonance Refrain, Zui the Archer's Adventure, Zui the Ilfard Insolence, Tabletop Playground, Frog Detective 1, Frog Detective 2, Still There. Is that a question or a game? Struggling, Path of Giants, and The Corridor. So I think if we were to tell our thoughts on each and every one of this game, we'd have an entirely new sort of video to put out. any of these that you've returned to?
Yeah, so Overcooked 2, I've played a lot with my wife. That's a really fun game to do. Um, Definitely do. I mean, you can play it by yourself, but definitely play it in co-op with somebody that you can uh, have fun with, but also be patient with. Because if
Hmm.
it's easy to get mad, and if you
Yep.
start yelling at people, they are not going to have a fun time. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your play partners on that. But definitely a lot of fun to play that one. One step from Eden, I came back to play some more, and I can't remember if I can't remember how much further I got in it, but it's I definitely had a lot more fun with that this time than I did with the sneak peek. And it's making me kind of want to go check out the Mega Man Battle Network series.
Yep.
Since I've been I'm hoping that's kind of the next series they remaster because they've done Mega Man X, and now Mega Man Zero. So that Battle Network seems like the next obvious one to do a remaster of, but we'll see what happens, or a collection rather. The Beast Inside, I want to check out some more of. I haven't had a chance to check out any more of that yet. Um, both the Zwei games, I want to take a look at. Chris reviewed those, but I'm a big fan of Nihon Falcom
Yep.
from their ease games, and this is kind of from around the same era when they were doing the ease games that I've played. So I definitely want to check those out. Tabletop Playground, I, I don't I don't think I'll ever play again because everyone that I know who wants to do anything like that is going to be using Tabletop Simulator. So I don't know. I finished Frog Detective 1. Haven't had a
Yep.
chance to go wrap up Frog Detective 2 yet, but the first one was really fun and breezy. I don't think I'll want to like replay it, but
Yep.
it might be something I share with my kids at some point once I have kids. Uh,
Thought that might be an announcement exclusive.
no, not yet, not yet. And Path of Giants I've returned to. That one's really fun to play. I'm more than halfway through it. The puzzles are starting to get a little tougher, but they're ramping slowly. Like it's not hitting like a big spike, which is good. Um, and I definitely finished the corridor. Everyone should.
Yep.
If you haven't played it, go play it. And if you didn't get the bundle, I would go buy it on Steam. It's $2. It's really
Yeah.
cheap. It's very good. Did you play it in the content creator mode?
I did. Yes, that was very
Okay,
cool when it has
yeah.
the favorite
It was
content creator.
if you are a content creator, definitely enable that mode. It adds a cool little thing. I don't know if that replaces something. I need to do a playthrough without content creator mode on to see if that's like does a different thing in that section. But yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. What games did you come
Yeah.
back to this month?
So for me, I didn't return to much because this was a very RPG heavy month. Um, so I finished Frog Detective 1 in one evening. That
Hmm.
was just, I really liked the writing in that. Um, and then, yeah, so I'd finished that when I did the review. And then a few days after I published the review, actually, no, the evening that I published it, I finished Frog Detective 2. And that, yeah, I don't know whether it's entirely better than the first one, but it just does what the first one does, even more. It doesn't particularly expand, but the good writing, the awkward silences are still there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the opening section at the detective agency. I really had a good time there.
Yeah, I think you get to make a scrapbook on the second one. You
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
your own
you do.
sticker book. Yeah, so I think that's the only real thing that's a big difference from the first one. One Step from Eden, I returned to. I played a few sort of more rounds of that. Again, if a roguelike's good, then I'll return to it. That is definitely the case with One Step from Eden. Um, you definitely do need to be awake when you play it, if you know what I mean. It's probably not
Hmm.
the game to end an evening with. But Frog Detective is you could start your gaming session with One Step from Eden, and then sort of see it in the evening with Frog Detective. But aside from that, I played the corridor all the way through. Um, and that's got to be it's between the corridor and before I forget for my favorite Humble original. Um, but yeah, it's such a good game. It's $2 on Steam. It should take about half an hour, so I highly recommend that. Do you think that's everything for this year of Humble Choice for December?
Yeah, I think so. Do you think that they'll keep doing uh, the whole thing where you get all the games, or do you think they're going to go back to having you pick and choose again?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Just a little conclusion bit. It's a tricky one because it's called the Humble Choice, isn't it?
Hmm.
And I can't see them rebranding again. Um,
So you
because
kind of get the choice of what subscription tier you want to get.
yeah,
If you like, if you're premium, I guess you get everything, or if you, at least for right now, um, and then they have, what is it, basic and light outside of that.
yeah, I think so.
So
Yeah,
yeah, basic you get to pick 3 games, but also you're choosing to be on basic, and then light, I guess you just get the
true.
access to the trove.
Yeah,
Yeah, and a limited discount on the Humble store. But I honestly I don't get why they have light in the first place. But
I
um,
suppose if you let's say there was like it's like a game like Syzygy on the Trove, because if that's the case, then you might want to pay like a few
you
dollars just to get that cheaper.
right, but
Um,
then at the same time, it's like I feel like if you're following games that are like that, you're probably a Humble subscriber if you're playing those
yeah, that's
originals.
fair.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I think they'll keep it. They'll keep calling it the Humble Choice. I can imagine the uproar if they rebrand again, but I don't think there'll be too much choosing.
And I
Or
guess you also kind of get to choose if you want to be subscribed or not for that
yeah,
month,
yeah,
right?
it's not hidden
Since
behind
you,
anything.
yeah, so with monthly, it was you would see the sneak peeks, but have to kind of guess if you were going to want that month or not. And now you get to see what's in there before you get to make the choice of do I pause or do I pick up this month.
Yeah, and I suppose one final question: what do you think? Yeah, what do you think Humble going to do in the future? Do you think they're going to change anything drastically with like Steam key redemptions, or maybe linking Steam accounts like as a gift straight to your page, or do you think they're going to keep with keys and maybe have a decline in games?
So they actually used to have the ability to link your Steam account and redeem games directly to your Steam account, and something happened with that API that they couldn't use it anymore, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it had some issues, anyways. Before that, bundles would come as a single key, to where
Okay.
you would put that key into Steam, and it would unlock that set of games for you, right?
Yeah.
And I would like to see them come up with some more concrete wording on how giveaway, or like not giveaway, but friend gift links work. Because it seems
Yeah,
like
we've asked
there's
for
the whole
that.
hubbub this year with people like giving away uh, humble games to other people, and then people who got gift links getting their accounts disabled. Um, a lot of weirdness there. And then so now people are like, well, I'll just redeem, I'll get the Steam key and give that away. And there's a problem there too, because if Humble sees you revealing keys for the same game multiple, like if I got a game through Humble and then it came through a choice and I want to give that to somebody, they see, well, Austin uh, revealed a second Steam key for this game, even though he already he's gotten a key from us before. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how that looks to them. So I wish they would be a little bit more concrete. I get why they aren't,
Mm.
but when I've got keys I want to give out to friends, what if I've got a friend who lives in Ohio, for example, like that I'm super close with? Do they
But
consider
it's not
us
a
not
close
to
friend.
be personal friends because he's physically not close to me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of weirdness there. I think in terms of changes that I think they will make this year, it seems like they're going to make an actual launcher for the Trove, which I think would be really
Okay.
good especially if they can get all the DRM free games in there. Like a way to track your DRM free stuff and keep it up to date would be
Yeah.
awesome. I would be a lot
Yeah.
more interested in their DRM free stuff if they did something like that.
Hmm.
Just because having to, one of the reasons Steam is great is it keeps track of all your games for you, and you don't have to worry about going out to a website to go check for updates manually. And so, yeah, that would be really lovely to have. It seems like that's something that they are working on. Um, I think that would add a lot more value to the Trove personally, because
Yeah. They
I
have
don't know about
a
you, I just never go to the Trove ever.
they have a similar thing with the Humble Bundle app on phones. I don't know if that's been updated, but I know when they used to do like sort of phone bundles in the past, there'd be an
Yeah,
app where you kept all your APKs with.
yeah, that was handy for a while. I think they haven't really kept up with it. It had some
No.
issues even when it was like being maintained, and I honestly don't think a lot of the apps that are on there were being kept up to date with their Google Play versions.
Yeah.
Um, but that, yeah, that's honestly an area that I kind of wish Steam would expand to, in terms of doing like an Android version of Steam. I don't know
Oh
how
yeah.
that would work, but like there's a decent amount of games on Steam that have Android versions. It would be cool
Yeah.
to buy a game on PC, also have it on phone, and automatically have like my save files synced up there. That would be really
Yeah.
nice. Um,
Sort of like
yeah.
Among Us or something. Is Among Us sort of does that save progress on PC and phone? I'm not too sure.
I mean, you have your unlocks, but there's not really a progression system in there.
Okay.
So yeah, at least not currently.
Yeah, for me, I think for the future of Humble, I think we'll see more launches next year. I think there'll be who have we got? So we've got Steam as like the main one. There's UPlay. Is Origin still a thing with EA Play on Steam now?
It is. It's getting a lot less focus from EA, but it yeah, it still exists.
And of course Epic Games. Um, yeah, so that's what I think in the future. I think devs will perhaps be more willing to give their games if it will link, the purchase to your Epic Games launcher account rather than having keys sort of floating about and the trouble that can bring.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think it's hard because Humble even needs to really compete with Game Pass, especially with the acquisition of Bethesda. Um, or I can really see. I don't think Humble will ever truly suffer because they have such of such this loyal PC fan base. But I do think Humble should perhaps be concerned about Game Pass and sort of the new
For sure,
acquisitions that Microsoft has.
for sure. Especially because a lot of games will show up either very shortly after being on Game Pass, or they'll become to Humble and then show up on Game Pass not too long
Yeah,
after. And so given Humble's nature, I don't think it would be really pro developer for them to try and lock down a contract of like, okay, you're only going to be in our bundle for this amount of time before going into other subscription services or something like that.
yeah.
That wouldn't be very humble of them,
Hey.
but yeah, they definitely have to differentiate. And I think the main like the main what a lot of people forget with Game Pass is you don't own the games, right? So like if you're playing the games as they come out, that's great. Like I find myself replaying games a lot less than I used to. But when you have such a wealth of games to play, if you kind of let something sit on your to-do list for a long time, like I do, eventually those games all will leave Game Pass unless they're Microsoft owned, right? So like
Yeah,
they get to they're on Game Pass for a certain amount of time, and then they leave. And once they leave, it then it become that humble key that you have is suddenly a lot more attractive.
yeah, definitely.
But
I I think yeah, Humble might grow their Humble Games that had a rebrand recently, didn't it?
mhm.
So I think because Humble can then control whether those games go to Game Pass, which they won't. Well, that would be funny if a Humble it's a Humble game on Game Pass. That
I'd have
would
to go look that up.
if that is the
I'm not
case.
sure if Humble and Microsoft have like a good working relationship, just because I don't know if a Microsoft game has ever shown up in a bundle.
Crusader Kings, or is
Is
that
that a Microsoft game?
Crusader Kings 3 is on Game Pass. That might not
Yeah,
be. I don't know if a Microsoft has acquired. Who's the devs of that? Big dev.
uh, I can't remember.
Paradox.
Yeah, Paradox.
We're
So I don't.
both googling it right now. I can hear.
Like it seems like Ori and the Blind Forest would be a really good fit for a bundle, but I don't think that's ever shown up in one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So Paradox Interactive have they haven't been acquired, but they've sort of signed. From the article I'm reading from WCCF Tech,
mhm.
they sort of in a in a contract with Game Pass to put their games straight to Game Pass. So there's like
Okay,
Surviving Mars, CK2, CK3, whatever. So
gotcha.
yeah, I think that'll be the real struggle for Humble in Game Pass. I don't think there's any other surface like Game Pass. I suppose PS Now and Stadia, but that's more about streaming, isn't it?
Yeah, and then
Um,
there's like EA Play, but that's mainly
that's
focused on
Microsoft
EA
now, isn't it?
games. Yeah, and they're joining in with Game Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ubisoft has their version, but I don't think anybody. I have not heard of anybody who's bought into that service. Game Pass is definitely the most competitive, and it's certainly changing. It's changing the landscape on how games are sold and how people perceive the value of games.
Definitely. Well, I think we've sort of gone over the 2 hour mark now. Um, Thank you very much, Austin, for your time this evening.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
having me on.
yeah, well, yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Well, if there's 12 games a month, well, at minimum, and there's been 12 months this year, we've played. Oh, hang on, my
I think we
calculator's
covered
not working.
13 months here, right? Because we did December
Oh,
of
yeah.
last year to December of this year.
So we've talked in a little bit of detail about 156 games in the space of 2 hours. So when you put it like that, um, I'd like, yeah, a really big thank you for sharing your thoughts. Where can they find you again?
You can find us over on Bombchu, the Bombchu YouTube channel. It's just spelled like Bombchu, like the Zelda item. Or you can find us on Twitch at Bombchu TV. And yeah, thanks a ton for having us, Squash.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on. Look forward to next year seeing what Bombchu brings for that and also what Humble brings. So this has been the Humble Roundup 2020, and thank you for listening.